All right, well, there's very clearly a shift that's happening now, and you're going to see it happening in the coming days. A shift from the Trump administration focusing on a lot of foreign affairs, which they've been, Ukraine and trade deals and things like that, to domestic. They have heard the domestic displeasure with the economy, and it seems like they're going to focus on that. Joining me now, Carol Roth, two-time best-selling author, recovering former investment banker. Okay, Carol, the administration is going to focus domestically. Some of that might be good, some of that might be bad. What kind of things are they tossing out there? What is this, dividend? What?
Well, first of all, I've got three letters for you. TYS, told you so. I knew this was going to be happen. We talked about the choreography of focusing on affordability because that is the reason that President Trump was put into office. It was the number one thing that people were concerned about. So I give the administration props for now, starting to home in on this. The challenge is that some of the ideas that are coming out are a little nutty, so we're going to need to work through them and hopefully twist it and change things around. On the tariff front, we know that the tariffs are in front of the Supreme Court right now, and I think to try to drum up, more support on the president's side, he is now throwing out the idea of stimulus checks, basically $2,000 tariff rebates, whatnot. Although Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has walked that back. They're floating ideas like 50-year mortgages to keep you indebted to the bank forever. I mean, might as well at this point have $200 mortgages and just keep it in the family for a few generations. So some of these ideas are a little wacky. But, we want to be positive, we want to be optimistic, and we want to be problem solvers. So we want to say, hey, here are the ways we can approach these things you're talking about and make them better. On the tariff fronts, I think the biggest gift that SCOTUS could give the president is by striking down the tariffs, but also making them basically proactive but not reactive in terms of their non-application. Refunding is going to be a big issue, even though it's money that they shouldn't have gotten, and a lot of people will want that back. From a purely gift to the president standpoint, saying we're drawing a line on the stand, it will be a boon to the market, it'll be a boon to the economy, and if the president is able to let that go and refocus, then he can start focusing on some of the different options for affordability in lots of different categories.
Okay, we'll come back to the affordability thing. I want you to expand a little bit on how does this help us if the Supreme Court strikes down some tariff stuff? How does this translate into things being more affordable for normal people?
Well, the tariffs are a tax. You can call it a licensing fee, you can call it an extra fee, but ultimately it's extra money that is paid by businesses and then ultimately consumers that's going to the government. So in my world, that is a tax, and having more taxes is a bad thing, which I think most of us can agree to. So if we can get rid of the tariffs, if we can say, that is not in an emergency power, that it doesn't match up with emergency powers, these tariffs that he is undertaking, then I think that it's a good thing because people won't have that extra cost. Businesses will have more certainty. The market will have more certainty on policy, and it will allow the Trump administration, instead of focusing on this relentlessly, to focus in other areas which are desperately needed. So I think that's going to be a benefit all around. Now, certainly, even if they strike them down, he could just, dig in, and he could take his proposals to Congress and try to get them to put those into law. But if that path opens up, if the Supreme Court offers the gift, I hope somebody says, please take the gift.
Okay, let's focus on affordability here. And I understand that we have decades and decades and decades of idiotic fiscal policy that has made us,
Yes.
that it's made housing unaffordable. We'll just focus on that portion of it. And
Right.
so, look, if you're a populist president, you can throw out ideas like 50-year mortgage all you want. And much as I hate that idea, it doesn't fix any of the foundational problems. Do you sense the administration is at all focused on the foundational problems that make life unaffordable for younger people?
I hope so. I think that when many of us spoke out and said, 50-year mortgages doesn't fix the affordability issue, it's just basically monetizing it. I think that some of the people involved in the administration picked up on other ideas that have been floated. I've floated ideas. I think I've talked to you about some of them before, like making mortgages assumable and portable. And so some folks in the administration have said that they are considering that as well. So that gives me at least a moment of optimism to say, okay, this is not the only thing that they're going to consider. And this is the first trial balloon that they're floating. I think that one's sort of gone over more like a lead balloon. But hopefully they will get involved in some of the things that they can. There are certain things that they won't be able to get directly involved, things like zoning issues at the local level. But by the president using his platform to shine a light on them, I do think he can create that kind of pressure and then help people sort of double down on that pressure to do what needs to be done at the local and state level while he's doing the things he can do at the federal level.
Carol, what do we think about this meatpacking collusion? What did he call it? Illicit collusion and price fixing. This is something the Trump administration has spoken out about. I understand there is a beef shortage in the country. Anyone who's tried to buy a T-bone at the grocery store is well aware that there is a beef shortage of some kind in the country. What is going on?
Yes, well, obviously, I am not a rancher and I don't even play one in a great drama on television. But obviously, there are issues. And, it's interesting how politicians, even the president, tend to go to big bad corporations and collusion and price fixing. And if that's happening, they should absolutely stop that. But where they never go, where I think they should go, is the deregulation and helping the smaller players in the industry. I've heard from many people, whether it's related to ranching or farming, that there are restrictions that make it harder for them to do business. And we should be making it as easy as possible for them to do business and to feed the country. And so going back to one of the tenets that they ran on, the deregulation, the focus on Main Street America, on our ranchers, on our farmers. Yes, we want to get rid of collusion with the big guys, but we want to make it easier for the small guys to compete. And that is something that they should be focused on highly.
Now, Carol, as we wrap this up here, the Trump administration, at least the first time, they were pretty daggone good about deregulation. That is something Trump does very, very well. He's big on that. Are they not focusing on that as much this time?
I think they got distracted. I think it should have been the first thing that they focused on out of the gates, as well as the making the tax code permanent. They obviously got the latter piece of that done, but the tariff policy and shoring some of that up, which some part of that has actually been great. So let me give the president props. Things like focusing on rare earth elements and securing our border and national security. Like some of those things are really good, and we're really glad he did it. But I do think the focus on tariff and some of the international trade didn't give them as much time to focus on Main Street. Even something like we've talked about the Corporate Transparency Act, they haven't even come out with the final rule yet. So that hasn't been codified. So they've taken some steps in that direction, but they need to do massive deregulation, particularly as it pertains to the things that create barriers for small businesses in this country. We want this country to grow and to thrive. It benefits everyone, and that starts with the backbone of the economy. So deregulation and helping out the little guys in a very pro free market way makes all the sense in the world.
Carol, I'm so glad you're with us and you're not an investment banker anymore. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.